it's your girl JLuv81. Thank you for joining me. I'm here to talk about games that I like better on the Sega Genesis. So, let's get started. Now, I grew up with an NES and a Super Nintendo, and I did not have a Sega Genesis as a kid. I just recently started collecting for the Sega Genesis and learned to appreciate the games, and came to the realization that there are games, in my opinion, better than the Super Nintendo or NES versions. The first game I want to bring up is Disney's Aladdin. I grew up with it as a kid, loved this game. It's a lot of fun. And then I discovered the Sega Genesis version, which I like better. And I'll explain to you guys why. I'm going to be showing you a comparison of these games in a video so you can see where I'm coming from.
Disney's Aladdin, based on the 1992 animated series. It was released in November of 1993 for both the SNES and Sega Genesis. On the SNES version, Aladdin has to jump on his enemies to defeat them or stun them by throwing apples. I love this game because of its platform style, but definitely like the Sega Genesis version better. In this version of the game, he uses a sword and apples. It also was worked on by Disney animators, which explains the beautiful detail. It also featured music from the film. I love how the apples cause harm and not just stun them in this version. And of course, having a sword is a plus. The gameplay runs a lot smoother and looks amazing. I definitely had a good time with both versions, but I have to say, to me, in my personal opinion, the Sega Genesis has an upper hand, and it has a lot to do with the sword.
The second game that I like better on the Sega Genesis is Taz-Mania. And I played it on the Super Nintendo. I had a good time. I used to rent this all the time, but definitely like the Sega Genesis version better.
Taz-Mania on the Super Nintendo was developed by Visual Concept. This game is just like a racing game, and the object of the game is to eat kiwi birds before the time runs out. This has no story mode, unlike the Sega Genesis version. You have to dodge obstacles that are trying to stop you at all costs. This is the game I rented as a kid, and even though I did enjoy it, I definitely knew it was missing something. It's just the same stuff over and over again in this game. But I do have a soft spot for it. I rented it all the time from Blockbuster. Taz-Mania on the Sega Genesis is developed by Recreational Brainware. It's a 2D side-scrolling platform adventure game. This game actually has a storyline. After hearing his father tell a tale about giant seabirds laying eggs that could feed a family of Tasmanian devils for a year, and legends say that somewhere along the island, there is a lost valley where the giant seabird still nests. Taz decides to set out on an adventure to locate one of these eggs. I enjoyed this platform game, and it felt more like a Taz-Mania game. Between the different stages and boss level fights, this game is a whole lot of fun, and I highly recommend it.
And the third game, bringing it back to the 8-bit days, is Dick Tracy. This is the game I grew up on. It is a good game. I had a lot of fun. It's really hard. But then I discovered that the Sega Genesis made a Dick Tracy as well. And I'll explain why I like that one better.
Dick Tracy on the NES is a side-scrolling game based on the comic strip. The object is to solve several mysteries without accusing the wrong person. Every level has a case to solve and clues, but it can get confusing, and that includes driving to your destination. Boy, does it take a while to get used to. It always annoyed me to switch back and forth for your weapon. If you shoot an unarmed enemy, you take damage. How fair is that? This is the version I grew up in, but little did I know that the Sega Genesis was going to have a Dick Tracy game that I absolutely love. Dick Tracy on the Sega Genesis is a side-scrolling arcade game that has various stages, and the object is to take down Big Boy. I love the fast-paced action and being able to shoot enemies in the background. I also love the arcade beat-em-ups feel in this game. I enjoyed the gameplay a lot better, and you don't have to worry about shooting an unarmed enemy. It's just more my style, and definitely recommended for the Sega Genesis.
So guys, those were games that I enjoyed better on the Sega Genesis. So let me know which games you enjoy better on the Sega Genesis, or maybe you enjoyed certain games better on the Super Nintendo or NES. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. So if you guys want to make a response video, feel free. It was a lot of fun, the last one that we did, and I appreciate all of you that responded. And if you want to see more, hit the like button, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.